We are trained to look at the world through the lens of random chaos. We believe our paths, our choices, and our ultimate outcomes are entirely dictated by the decisions we make tomorrow morning. But what if the baseline framework of your capacity was already etched into your physical architecture before you ever drew your first breath? The world's oldest systemic datasets do not treat the human body as a random collection of genetic mutations. They treat it as a master blueprint, a biological chassis where every line, every skeletal dimension, and every facial curvature represents an unalterable metric of human capability. In mainstream modern media, this data is often boxed into predictive mythologies or generalized pseudoscience. But if you strip away the local cultural terminology and look directly at the raw morphological data, you find something far more analytical. You find a structural diagnostic tool. Thousands of years ago, empirical analysts mapped the entire human structure, categorizing patterns across millions of subjects. They discovered that certain physical proportions perfectly correlate with extreme stress tolerance, resource retention, and cognitive architecture. This series is not a journey into mysticism. This is a deep dive into first principles anatomical analysis. We are decoding the physical grid lines that dictate human outcome, and it begins at the absolute highest point of your structural frame, the control center, the cranial matrix. Let us look at the first master metric. We call it the horizon. Look directly at the horizontal creases etched across a person's forehead. Mainstream thought dismisses these as simple wrinkles caused by repetitive facial expressions or aging. But the foundational structural text, preserved in the ancient records, provides a highly technical diagnostic framework for these lines. The data explicitly states that the quantity, clarity, and structural integrity of these horizontal paths act as a biological counter for human lifespan and resilience. Let us break down the exact mathematical parameters. If an individual possesses exactly 3 horizontal lines that run completely and broken from one side of the frontal bone to the other, the data categorizes them as an elite structural container. This specific geometry correlates with a highly stable biorhythmic frequency, indicating an advanced biological lifespan capable of reaching 90 years. However, if the system displays for perfectly synchronized, continuous lines across the horizon, the metric shifts precisely to an 80-year operational duration. But look at the anomaly when a forehead profile displays a complete and total absence of any horizontal lines. The mainstream interpretation assumes a lack of experience, but the ancient database declares the exact opposite. A completely smooth line-free frontal bone represents an ultra-rare structural matrix that historically correlates with an exceptionally prolonged, highly protected longevity. The trap, however, lies in the broken path. When these forehead lines are fractured, uneven, or extend downwards toward the ears, the structural grid records a volatile energy leakage. The data maps this uneven configuration to a severely restricted life cycle, dropping the operational timeline to a mere 30 years. Now observe the overall frame. Individuals with a clean, crescent-shaped forehead curve are systematically marked for the compounding accumulation of resources and wealth, while a completely flat, disproportionately narrow, or sparse frontal bone signals an absolute structural failure in retaining assets. The lines are not wrinkles. They are the readout of your baseline biological timeline. Up next, the focal geometry.